The Resilient Jenkins have self-diagnosed their toddler with autism. Someone please tell me that this isn't true, because the last time I checked, she had said that there was nothing wrong with her son, and now in all of her videos, she is using autism as the main hook and content. She hasn't once said that she went to go get him evaluated, but all of a sudden, she is saying that her son is on the spectrum, that she has to get him all of these different activities because he's on the spectrum. And this is about to sound crazy, but people are saying that this is her way of soft launching the Autism Grift campaign, which is basically where she says that her son has autism and now she's gonna ask for money or gifts or things for her children because of it. Kind of like the way that people bought their whole Amazon wish list in the beginning. A lot of people feel very disrespected with this self-diagnosis, and rightfully so, because she isn't taking any real steps to go get him help. And for her to use this as a way to get views, as a way to be relatable, or as a way to get free gifts or money is insane. But again, if anyone knows, maybe somebody who's on her close friends or like the subscriptions, if she did go to the doctor, please let me know, because if not, this is crazy.
I've noticed that in Stephanie Jenkins' videos, she keeps selecting which kids she wants to put in danger. What I mean is, like, they keep going out, Stephanie and Drew, and they're always leaving kids behind because they don't all fit. For example, in the car wash video, we know that the younger daughter, she was sitting in the passenger seat, while they had the 2-year-old, they had the girl, and the Deshawn. Now, this is a side note, they all have different baby daddies. Prove me wrong, fight me in the comments, but I said what I said. Now let's go back to another video that I saw, and it's the one that's underneath here. Boop, it's a little screenshot. They're at a grocery store where only they have the baby and the 2-year-old. Where are the other kids? Where? Because it always seems like they leave somebody behind because they don't all fit in the Jetta. They're so selfish, and I'm sick of it. I need answers.
Buckle up, because Stephanie Jenkins just dropped a video that has the internet fuming, and honestly, this might be her most outrageous stunt yet. In what's now being called a masterclass in tone-deaf parenting, Stephanie uploaded a chaotic, multi-layered clip showing her young son, Hat Tola, sprawled out next to a public trash can. And no, this wasn't a quick, blink-and-you-miss-it moment. This was fully filmed, edited, and posted by Stephanie herself, complete with dramatic text overlays and a moody voiceover. It had all the markings of a "watch me be vulnerable" parenting reel, except instead of showing care, it exposed a whole lot of exploitation. Now here's where things get messy. Instead of taking the obvious route, apologizing or addressing safety concerns, Stephanie decided to spin the moment. Her big reveal. Hat Tola might be autistic. No official diagnosis. No evaluations. No medical input whatsoever, just a mother on the internet tossing out a heavy label like it's part of a social media trend. 1 second, she's being called out for letting her kid lie next to a literal trash bin, and the next she's turning it into a neurodivergent awareness moment. The whiplash is real. The video itself is a production. Stephanie added a lengthy, emotionally charged caption explaining that she intentionally filmed her son playing near the trash area to make a point. She wrote about how she's asked him multiple times to play on the grass instead, but claimed, if you know anything about children on the spectrum, you'd understand why he keeps returning to that spot. That sentence right there? That's what had people collectively gasping. It was as if she expected the autism reference to magically excuse what looked like a moment of pure neglect. And let's be very clear, Stephanie has never, ever mentioned autism before. Not when people gently questioned Hat Tola's development. Not when he was shown in videos with no speech support, no proper supervision, and no safe play areas. Not during their endless content about living in motels, sharing cramped sleeping arrangements, or doing everything under the sun except seeking professional help. But now, suddenly, she's tossing around terms like sensory needs and on the spectrum like she's been navigating this journey for years, and it's all happening in the comment sections, captions, and narrations of videos that just coincidentally benefit from the extra engagement. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. Stephanie, trying to reinforce her new narrative, filmed herself assembling a sensory bin, something parents of children with actual diagnoses often use to support regulation. But instead of coming off as thoughtful or informed, the video felt theatrical.
I know I've mentioned it on here plenty of times that it's not part of my healing journey to sit up on here and speak ill on other people. I feel every now and again I have to break it down for you guys. Just gotta love how everybody else and their mother can post up on their situation. And just because it ain't Drew and I, somehow they're better. Tell me how another mama can post about how she's homeless with her kids up in a hotel. And y'all are like, oh yeah, but you're not like them. Honey, realistically, how the fuck do you know? I don't go broadcasting our every little move. For you, me not talking about housing, you automatically assume we're not doing anything to better our situation. And that's not the case. You give a fuck what a bunch of online idiots have to say. It's the fact that they got these child snatchers thinking they can come in and continuously harass our lives. lives, continuously show up at our door and question our parenting. Regardless of the fact that we continue to show there's absolutely nothing going on for you guys to pick apart. Or act like me and Drew are naive to everything that gets posted about us. Like, we post things not knowing that you're going to pick things apart and you're going to try to use them against us. No, we post stuff knowing full well we aren't doing nothing wrong. Because we didn't start off the aesthetic family that everybody else just loves to support doesn't mean that we don't have every chance of growing a community of understanding people who have been in the type of situations that we're currently in. For those of you who want to say, oh, she's starting to get so sassy. No, it's called getting a backbone to all this. It's called building resilience. We're just finally taking a stance to all this literal bullying, because that's what it is. And letting you know me and Drew are damn good parents. So you continue to hate or you sit here and watch the growth. Either way, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And we're not doing nothing wrong. All right? Bye-bye now.
She spoke about how they're planning to gradually move the bin farther from the trash to help her son ease into a safer space. But people weren't impressed. It didn't feel like an organic parenting moment. It felt like a setup, a scripted storyline with sensory toys and dramatic lighting.
So I wanted to take a minute and address some of the accusations that I've seen numerous times. Just claiming that we're neglecting to take the time to get our son evaluated for autism. Just because we aren't taking the time to share that process and we're not posting that publicly doesn't mean that we aren't making sure that's getting done for our son. When it comes to my kids, like medical needs and what they go through at the doctor's office, that's not something I'm typically going to be sharing on our page. So, like I said, just because we aren't sharing that we're getting our son evaluated and whatever steps we're taking to get him the support he needs doesn't mean that we are neglecting to get our son the support he needs and deserves for his spectrum-related conditions. With that being said, I will start sharing a little bit more, just because I know there's a huge online community that has a lot more experience with this than both Drew and I. This is new to both of us, and there's a great deal of support and information that people can offer to us that I feel could be a lot of help. For instance, my son, we could really use to kick the pacifier habit for him, and I'm not necessarily sure where to go about that. Like, it's definitely a lot more of a meltdown than I dealt with my other toddlers, and I think that has to do more with this, like, the spectrum. I don't know. So like I'm saying, there's lots of things that have come up that I feel would be kind of a relief to just kind of start talking about and maybe get a little more understanding of why my posting is inconsistent at times.
And what's got everyone even more riled up? The complete lack of receipts. There hasn't been a single mention of a pediatric consultation. No speech therapy updates. No behavior evaluations. No doctor's office snapshots, appointments, or resources. Nothing. Just vague language and internet therapy vibes. Meanwhile, she's throwing around terms that actual parents fight to understand and navigate after months, sometimes years, of real medical processes. This is where the line between the mom content and emotional manipulation starts to blur. Stephanie has turned what could have been a teachable moment into a fully staged performance. And at the center of it is a little boy who didn't ask to be used as a prop for views and pity clicks. She's essentially created a new content arc, one where she plays the misunderstood, trying her best mother of a neurodivergent child, but without doing any of the actual work that goes into understanding and supporting such a diagnosis. What's worse is the precedent it sets. By normalizing the idea that parents can diagnose their kids based on personal instinct and build entire narratives around it online, she's not just misguiding her followers, she's trivializing the real challenges families face in getting support for neurodivergent children. It's not a vibe, it's not a trend, and it's definitely not an aesthetic for content creation. So just when you think Stephanie Jenkins might finally take a step back and reflect on the chaos she's constantly broadcasting, she hits us with another PR pivot so bold, it's almost impressive if it weren't so unsettling. This time, it's not a slip-up or a clueless parenting moment. This is something darker, calculated, exploitative, and dressed up as maternal concern. It all started with that now infamous clip, her son, Hat Tola, lying dangerously close to a public trash can. Not playing in a safe space. Not supervised. Just lying there, with Stephanie in the distance, filming the scene like it was some raw, artistic parenting moment. Then comes the kicker, a long, moody caption trying to justify it all with a claim that children on the spectrum often exhibit this kind of behavior. Pause. Did she really just do that? Yes, she did. With no formal diagnosis, no specialist's input, no mention of medical evaluations, Stephanie suddenly decided her child might be autistic and used that as the reason he was next to garbage in public. And just like that, she reframed the narrative from public concern to misunderstood parenting. But let's be real, this isn't awareness. It's a PR move. Let's not forget, this is the same woman who, up until now, never once brought up autism, not during the motel hopping, not during the endless car seat confessions, not when people gently questioned why Tola seemed to lack support or safe play areas. And now, all of a sudden, she's sprinkling terms like sensory needs and spectrum behavior across her captions like confetti at a brand launch. But here's what makes it worse, she's doing it without anything to back it up. No mention of therapists. No speech assessments. No developmental screenings. Just vibes, guesses, and TikTok videos. She doesn't share a doctor's name, a plan of action, or even an attempt to book professional help. What she does share: a DIY sensory bin. Bought and assembled on camera with a dramatic voiceover, as if that somehow proves she's a hands-on, proactive mom. It didn't scream love, it screamed, look, internet. I'm doing something. What Stephanie doesn't seem to grasp is that throwing a sensory bin into the mix doesn't silence the concerns people have, it amplifies them. Because now, it looks like she's using her child's potential diagnosis to shield herself from accountability. And that's not parenting, that's manipulation. And we haven't even gotten to the diaper scandal.
Yeah.
People noticed Tola's visibly soaked diaper in that same clip. It could have been brushed off. Most viewers wouldn't have blinked if this wasn't part of an ongoing pattern. But Stephanie? She couldn't let it slide. She doubled down with yet another long explanation. He hydrates a lot, she claimed. I changed him 14 minutes before. And here's where people really started to side-eye. Because nobody's blaming hydration, they're pointing out a repeated theme of neglect, wrapped in pretty captions and overly curated content. The internet isn't upset over a single moment.
Like, no motherfucking jokes, but that diaper fuller than my gas tank. I tell you to fuck that, okay? And then it's just a simple fact that she points out in the video, like, that his diaper is, yes, he went and got changed, you know what I'm saying? This boy loves to hydrate. Well, if he loves to hydrate, then why don't mama love to change his diaper? Like, what? Because he's gonna pee anyway. Let's just leave the pee on him. Because he gonna pee again. Girl, you gotta be shitting me. You have got to be shitting me.
It's reacting to a collection of choices, consistently unsupervised moments, lack of structure, no visible effort to provide medical or developmental care, and an increasing focus on aesthetic over substance. And instead of saying, you know what, I hear you, she claps back with performative vulnerability. She doesn't reflect, she rebrands. Every criticism becomes bullying, every concern is hate, and every mistake is spun into another piece of content. And let's be real, if you're documenting every motel check-in, every backseat nap, and every minor family meltdown online, claiming that, we just don't share every plan we have, sounds a lot like deflection. Stephanie shares everything except the things that actually matter, like getting her child help, setting up stability, or building a foundation for long-term care. This isn't about dragging a mom for struggling. This is about calling out a pattern where real concerns are dismissed, red flags are aestheticized, and a child's possible neurodivergence is being used as an internet storyline before it's ever been properly understood, let alone diagnosed. It's wild how Stephanie claims, we just don't share everything, as if that excuses the lack of progress.
You think you're a good mom, right? We'll give credit where credit is due, and you cook some pretty good food, okay? And you do it with very minimal tools and utensils and space. Other than that, Stephanie, you need to realize that the internet, where you're making your money right now, is forever. Even if you delete the video, it will stay and live on the internet forever. I know that social media is a legitimate way to earn income. I get it. And I get wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and be able to be there with your kids and be the one raising your kids. I get it. I would love to be able to do that too. You're throwing your kids under the bus to get that check. Mark my words, Stephanie. These kids are going to grow up one day and they are going to hate that their most vulnerable times, their most embarrassing times of their childhood is displayed all over the internet for everybody to talk about. You say that they want to be in your videos now and that they consent. They're not even old enough to know what that means. They're not old enough to know the repercussions 10, 15, 20 years from now. These kids are going through a really hard time in their lives right now. You are furthering that by blasting this all over the internet. You're throwing them under the bus to get that check. Stephanie, you need to do better. At the very least, switch up your content so that it is not centered around your children. Because I promise you, there will become a time later on in life that your kids resent you and despise you for this. Do better, Stephanie Jenkins.
But let's be real, when you're comfortable enough to record your toddler rolling around next to trash bins, post about diaper mishaps, and defend questionable parenting choices to strangers on the internet, why wouldn't you share something actually uplifting? Like, say, updates on securing housing or steps towards starting therapy. If there's truly a plan in motion behind the scenes, why does everything look exactly the same? Since their viral rise, nothing substantial has shifted. The kids are still bouncing between cramped motel rooms. The financial chaos? Still glaring. The unstable living situations? Still ever present. There's no visible sign of progress, no mention of structured plans or consistent care. It's like everything's been stuck on pause, yet the filming never stops. People initially rallied behind Stephanie because she came across as a struggling mom trying to survive impossible odds. There was empathy. There was hope. But that compassion is slowly turning into irritation, not because viewers stopped caring, but because they cared deeply and now feel misled. The support she once had is eroding because instead of showing real change, she's showing rehearsed narratives and carefully framed posts meant to control perception, not reality. The spotlight isn't on growth anymore, it's on image management. And the deeper people look, the more it feels like a performance rather than progress. And we have to talk about Drew, because he plays a much bigger role in this than people tend to acknowledge. Here's a man with a child from a previous relationship who has flat out admitted he's not involved and refuses to pay child support. He's even publicly said he avoids getting a job because it would take 10 years off his life. That's not self-care, that's willful neglect. Parenting isn't about avoiding discomfort, it's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard, even when it sucks. When your kids are sleeping in temporary housing, when they lack routine and basic stability, and you actively choose not to work to help change that. That's not just lazy, it's reckless. Yet somehow, Stephanie still presents him as a devoted father. Devoted to what, exactly? He's not showing up for his older child. He's not improving their living conditions. He's not providing a stable income or doing anything that would shield his children from child protective services, which, by the way, are reportedly already on their radar. Oh, and let's not forget, there's literally a warrant out for Drew's arrest because he failed to appear in court over unpaid child support. That's not just an oversight, that's deliberate avoidance of responsibility. Real dedication isn't proven with smiling cameos in TikToks. It's measured by real-life action, accountability, and consistent effort. Drew, from what people are seeing, isn't a pillar of support, he's part of the reason the situation is so dire. And the fact that Stephanie keeps propping him up says more about her standards than it does about his actual behavior. Then, when people start asking the tough questions about housing, about therapy, about safety, Stephanie doesn't pause and reflect. She pivots. Like clockwork. Suddenly, it's all about how other struggling moms get more support. But here's the thing, those other moms? They show their work. They document the job applications, the housing interviews, the aid programs they're applying for. They're honest about the hardships, but also transparent about their efforts. That's what earns them respect and support, not just the struggle, but the fight. Stephanie and Drew, by contrast, seem more focused on putting out fires in the comment section than building a fire under themselves to improve their situation. Their energy goes into creating content and crafting tearful defenses, not building a better life for their kids. And when viewers see that, it's hard to stay invested. It's not about people favoring aesthetic moms, it's about recognizing parents who are doing the real work. Parents who, even in the darkest situations, are clearly trying, seeking help, making moves. The internet might be quick to judge, sure, but it's also quick to uplift those who show authentic effort. What people won't stand for is watching kids be used as content while their basic needs remain unmet. So no, the backlash isn't about people being cold or unsupportive. It's about the growing realization that this isn't just a tough situation, it's one being dragged out, deflected from, and polished up for views, while the children at the center of it all continue to be overlooked. Absolutely babe, here's a deeper, more vivid reimagining of the piece with completely fresh phrasing, stronger emotional layering, and a sharper tone, while still staying grounded in the core message. And this is where the tide is turning, the reason the public's trust in Stephanie and Drew is starting to unravel thread by thread. Let's stop pretending that CPS just randomly targets families without reason. These aren't heartless bureaucrats showing up to punish people for not having granite countertops. These are trained professionals, tasked with stepping in when there are repeated patterns suggesting that a child's well-being might be compromised. In this case, the warning signs aren't subtle, they're flashing neon. We're talking about toddlers wandering barefoot near garbage-strewn lots, unsupervised in high-traffic motel parking areas, with no consistent school schedule, no visible access to pediatric care, and no proof of long-term support systems in place. It's not just one bad day captured on video, it's the same chaotic backdrop over and over again, like a carousel of instability. Yet Stephanie works overtime to reframe the story. She doesn't respond with action, she retaliates with spin. Suddenly, CPS becomes this monstrous, villainous entity sent to torment her just because she's broke. Her followers are fed a steady stream of anxiety-laced TikToks, heavy with paranoia and fear-baiting, painting her and Drew as victims of a cruel system that punishes people for being different. But CPS isn't tuned into how cute your DIY decor is. They don't care if your kid is wearing mismatched socks or if your floor isn't mopped every day. They care about safety. About children with no shoes playing in motel lots. About toddlers dangerously close to smokers and broken glass. About kids who clearly don't have a stable roof, routine nutrition, or medical attention. These aren't cosmetic issues, they're urgent. And let's be honest here, this isn't about CPS being unfair. It's about what Stephanie is broadcasting to the world herself. If she truly wanted to show growth, there would be real updates. Not aesthetic edits, but signs of movement at therapy appointments, housing applications, daycare schedules, school involvement. But there are no receipts for progress. Just content. Meanwhile, she insists she's resilient, that she's surviving. But surviving what, exactly? Resilience doesn't mean repeating the same choices that put your children at risk. It means identifying what isn't working and doing the hard, quiet work to change it. But all we see is recycled drama, the same motel lighting, the same unsafe settings. Just louder now. And louder doesn't mean stronger. It just means more deflection. She hasn't taken the steps. She hasn't shown the growth. She's not climbing out of anything, she's spinning in place, surrounded by ring lights and chaos. And that's not resilience. That's performance. And then there's Drew. Let's talk about the role he plays, because it's often swept under the rug. Here's a man who already has a child from a previous relationship and has outright admitted that he refuses to work because he doesn't want to waste years of his life paying child support. That's not setting boundaries, that's choosing self-preservation over parental duty. That's letting your pride matter more than your child's future. Parenthood isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be sacrificial. And when you're living in motels with kids who depend on you and you're choosing not to earn income, not to take responsibility, that's not just laziness, that's deliberate abandonment. And that's the man Stephanie continues to defend as a committed father. To be clear, commitment isn't measured in TikTok cameos. It's measured in effort, in stability, in presence. Drew doesn't provide that. He's more often absent than useful, more invested in avoiding accountability than in building a better life for his kids. The fact that he has an outstanding warrant for skipping court over unpaid child support isn't just a bad look, it's a legal consequence of failing as a parent. And the saddest part? Stephanie props him up. She holds him out like he's some quiet hero, when in reality, he's just another weight dragging the family down. She's not praising his actions, she's revealing her own lowered expectations. And when people push back on this narrative, when viewers, educators, and therapists raise concerns, she immediately switches into defense mode. She plays the victim, compares herself to other struggling moms who get more support, and paints critics as bullies. But here's the truth, those other moms? They show work. They document their efforts to get out of homelessness. They don't just complain about being unsupported, they show the applications, the calls to social workers, the meetings, the progress updates. Their platforms are rooted in transparency, not just trauma. So naturally, they gain real community support, because people can see that they're fighting. Meanwhile, Stephanie and Drew create reactive content, argue with commenters, and post emotional rebuttals instead of taking action. There's no visible job search, no progress toward housing, no consistent childcare. They aren't showing steps forward, they're showing excuses in high definition. This isn't about aesthetic privilege. It's about accountability. It's about people recognizing when someone is doing everything but the work. And when you spend your time defending yourself instead of improving your situation, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, the support will dry up. Because sympathy fades fast when the people who need help most don't seem to want it enough to change. So no, people aren't rooting against Stephanie because she's struggling. They're frustrated because she's stuck, and seems content to stay there, as long as the cameras keep rolling. At the end of the day, this isn't just about content. It's about children. And no child deserves to live in an endless TikTok loop while the adults in their life prioritize clout over care. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more real talk like this, hit like and subscribe. And always remember, kids come first. Always.